All right, good morning. Welcome atheists, agnostics, skeptics, free thinkers, whatever you like to call yourself. You are welcome here. At Seattle Atheist Church, we call ourselves an atheist church because you will never hear anything supernatural talked about from the podium. So this morning, we've all gathered and had some time to have some coffee and talk a little before we got started, and then afterwards we'll put our chairs in a circle and have time for a little bit more discussion. And I'm just so grateful, to have this time and to have this community. Today's topic is loneliness, and there are very few talks given on loneliness, even on TED, very few. And the ones I found weren't really about the loneliness that I want to talk about. In one TED Talk on loneliness, the speaker was concerned about our use of technology. She said, "We spend our evenings on social networks instead of going to the pub with friends, as if people are automatically less lonely at a pub." I thought, this is a misuse of the word lonely, because the loneliness that I want to talk about is made worse by being around other people. It is the experience of being on the outside, looking in, of having the door locked and no idea where to find the key. In a talk called "We All Need to Practice Emotional First Aid," which is a TED Talk, Guy Winch used the word loneliness to explain why he spent a night agonizingly waiting for a call from his brother on the same night that his brother spent an agonizing night trying to connect with him. Yes, that is the loneliness that I mean. That situation. And he cautions against giving in to loneliness. He says, your emotions are really like a moody friend who can be totally supportive of you one minute and very unpleasant the next. I once worked with a woman who, after 20 years marriage and an ugly divorce, was finally ready to date. She had met this guy online, and he seemed nice, was successful, and most importantly, he seemed into her. So she was excited. She bought a new dress, and they met at an upscale New York City bar for a drink. 10 minutes into the date, the man stands up and says, "I'm not interested," and walked out. The woman was so hurt she couldn't move. And here's what her friend said. "What did you expect? You have big hips." Winch reveals that the so-called friend was really her own internal dialogue. But I can imagine someone with high self-esteem who realizes that he or she is a great catch, still being let down after a potential friendship or romance or whatever flops. You don't have to have low self-esteem for that. And it seems almost implied that if you had higher self-esteem, you would never have to feel lonely. I know my own company is great, thanks. I'm just sitting here enjoying my beer with my best friend in the world, myself. But I've seen some really awesome people saddened by being left out. It's confusing. Like, I'm a good person, and I don't have any clue what's happening. Guy Winch advises, don't ruminate over distressing thoughts. If you feel rejected, treat yourself like a good friend. Say nice things to yourself, and don't replay rejection in your mind. He has confidence that just as people learned about physical hygiene and learned how to wash their hands to prevent infections, people can learn about psychological hygiene and can wash away unhelpful thought patterns and prevent causing themselves undue psychological pain. The message I'm getting is basically try not to think about it. Has anyone ever seen the book by Mindy Kaling called "Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me?" Well, I haven't read the book, but I do love that cover whenever I see it at Barnes & Noble. Now here's a smart, successful, beautiful, funny woman. And yes, Mindy, everyone is hanging out without you. We know the answer to the question as soon as it's been asked. So I want to talk about an extreme case of loneliness. It's a cautionary example. Our lives should be a counterexample. Does everybody here knows the movie Fight Club? It came out in 1999 and it starred Ed Norton and Brad Pitt. It's a brutal movie. It's really about the changing ideals around masculinity that our culture underwent in the 80s. And the unnamed narrator is also an unreliable narrator. So he's narrating his life while his perception of what's happening is completely distorted, to say the least. And he keeps talking about himself using a name from a Reader's Digest magazine story that he read. He speaks in a monotone, this is Ed Norton, and as if he is not having an experience of pain, but as someone who is so identified with his pain that he can't separate from it. He says, I am Jack's broken heart. That is loneliness. He says, I am Jack's wasted life. That is loneliness. I am Jack's inflamed sense of rejection. That is loneliness. As if these things were permanent, as if they had consumed his identity. And it is so important to remember in the middle of a broken heart, in the middle of a segment of your life that feels wasted, in the middle of inflamed rejection, that it is not who you are. We need friends, family, colleagues, classmates, and church friends who can help us see the big picture, who can reflect ourselves back to us. Without that, it can be very lonely. But even someone with friends and family, someone with high self-esteem, can still experience acute loneliness. And I don't think that we should be too afraid to name it and discuss it. Atheists believe in good because good works in non-mysterious ways. Yeah. Thank you very much.